Jackson Pepper Soup. They were the ones that did the lunch today. We do have a lot of extra soup that they brought, so we're going to package this up in some to-go containers. You're welcome to take some of that home if you'd like. So that's your good news of the day. Maybe you don't have to make dinner tonight, right? So I'm going to do a few announcements, have a little presentation, and then we'll get Geraldine up here and have her start her presentation. So we thank you for coming today. We have some stuff coming up, so keep your eyes open. Friday, December 16th, we're doing the holiday breakfast with the school kids, which will be at the school, and it'll be around 8:30 in the morning. And the student council makes the breakfast and serves the breakfast, and then the donations and the money for that goes all to the student council. So we do a collection for them. Thursday, when? Friday, December 16th. Apparently it's the last day of school. So that's when Tim Verhoeven wanted to do it. So works for us. Thursday, January 19th. So we're going to kind of try to stick to the third Thursday of the month, if you can check that in your brain a little bit. Thursday, January 19th, excuse me, at noon will be Options for Independent Living. They're an organization that we've been working with for the last few years. Little lapse because of COVID, but we're back working with them. They do a lot of kind of occupational therapy things and help people who have various needs, like a larger telephone, setting up an echo, things like that. So they have a lot of technology available, and so they'll be coming up. And then looking way ahead, February 16th will be Kate Hopkins, our local audiologist. So hopefully most of you know who Kate is. We have a blood pressure clinic coming up next Tuesday. If you need your blood pressure done, Roxanne will be here from 10 to noon, and she'll be kind of over here in the corner. A couple of other little things. We have COVID tests if you need any. There's 2 tests to a kit. We get these from Public Health. So if you need them, there's a box up here. You can help yourself after. Curative Connections is an organization we work with. We are in need of some people to help some of our residents out in the community. So they are looking for some part-time workers. And so I have these, and I'll put them over at the sign-in table, and you're welcome to take one if you know somebody who might be interested. And if they need an application, they can come see us, or they can do it online. This is what Brenda Cornell does. Everybody know Brenda? Yeah, okay.
So it's a paid position?
It's a paid position, and Brenda right now is my only person working for Curative, so we are in need of needing some. You don't have to be certified in anything, you don't have to be a CNA, but we are in need of some warm bodies who are willing to help. Last but not least, it's been brought to my attention, apparently we're having a big phone outage with Frontier that has been brought to our attention, and there is is this the ticket number, Sally?
It's the work order.
The work order number. The report number. So I can leave that on the table as well if you are interested. So if you call, if you have an outage, you can refer to this number. So maybe the more the merrier to get them here. Okay. So now I'm to my little presentation. As you know, Laura Finley Hagan was our program coordinator since we inherited the program back in 2015. If you can believe that. I had to look that date up. So, and Laura did it before that, and we worked together with her as White Chip before that when it was with Family Center of Door County. So how long did you do it total?
I think
Since 2009, so it's a long time. So Laura has left White Chip. We're sad, but it was for reasons she needed to. So we will be getting somebody else. That's a process. In the meantime, we wanted to recognize Laura for her years of service and for what she did. She was dedicated to the job. She loved to call the people, email the people, get the people there, get people connected, ask really good questions of the speakers. At many presentations I was at, and just had a real love and passion for what she did. So White Chip would like to recognize you with a little gift. I'm going to make you come up here. I'm standing over by myself. So a little bit of our appreciation.
Doing this job for a really long time. It started with the family centers lost a lot of them, which sadly, but a lot of them are at scan and a lot of them have passed. But the thing that's exciting now is that we are including all ages to come to the luncheons, because many of the speakers have so many wonderful things to share that really do include anyone and everyone in the community. The information that they give and share has been, I've learned so much. The speakers have been phenomenal, whether they're from the island or if they come from off island. Geraldine obviously spends half our time here, which is really wonderful. She delivers great services to the people up here. And so we've had such a variety of medical people, people who actually, they do all kinds of things for people, and resources from the county. We've really built a bridge from the county to here, and a lot of the island people know so many of the services that are available to the island now. And when I started, 2015, nobody knew what Y-chip meant. And I kept saying this, any article, anything I have, WICHP, Y-chip, Washington Island Community Health Program, in parentheses, and you just drilled it, but everybody knows what Y-chip is now, which is so great. So anyway, I'm glad to be able to come and sit and enjoy myself. Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
On your table, just to remind you, when we're done with the speaker, there is a survey evaluation that we'd like to get some feedback from you. We're also always looking for topics that are of interest to you. You give us the topic, we'll try to get you a speaker up here, which we have done in the past. And please stick around when you're done, because we're going to do a little drawing. All your names are in a bowl, and there is a gift card for Jeff's and Harper Soup, so you want to hang around for that one. And I'm sure it'll be honored next year if you don't get to use it this year. On that note, I'm going to hand this over to Geraldine. I'm going to let you pronounce your last name because I don't do well. So I'm going to get off of this. There, I'll get off.
Veneman.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Geraldine Veneman, but Geraldine is fine. I am a mental health therapist, I'm a psychotherapist. I have a master's in social work, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
Can't hear you back there.
Turn the microphone.
We tested it earlier, but I can speak a little bit louder too while we're trying to fix this.
That's better.
Okay. I am originally from the Netherlands. When I first came here to visit, just a vacation, I just fell in love with the island, and this was about 10 years ago. And 4 or 5 years ago, I found myself a home and built an office on the other side of the driveway. So not at my home, and since then I've been commuting back and forth. I have a practice office in Madison, which is my base, and Washington Island is a satellite office. There were some things that I was asked to talk about, but I also would like to invite you to ask any questions, because mental health is really a wide range of things, including pain. Pain is a very big factor for your mental health, as is sleep, and I can literally talk about any of this for hours or for minutes. So we have kind of 3 topics today. One is, as you get older, the developmental and life stages. And as kids, we are very familiar with developmental stages, but we're not so familiar with when we get older. So a little bit about that. And the other one is the change of seasons, seasonal affective disorder. And then Wychip asked me to talk about grief. So those are my notes. sorry. So late life, when we are in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, things change as much as they change when we become a toddler and a kindergartner and a middle schooler and a high schooler. They're just different. One of the great things about aging is you have a lot more experience and you draw from that. So a big thing that is good is we have a lot of resilience as we grow older. One of the harder transitions is when we retire. Not only do we look forward to it, but now we also have all this time all of a sudden. So that's a big change. And then what do you do with this time? And then you might get some issues, and your mobility might go down, or your hearing might go down, or your vision. And all these changes have a big effect on your mental health. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to retire, and then these things happen. So, as I think it's very important for all parts, and of course I'm biased, all developmental stages, we look at our mental health and we seek help if we get ourselves in trouble. If we're not sleeping very well, we're drinking maybe more than we should, we're just unhappy. The earlier you come to people like me, the quicker you're out of my office. And that is what my job is, to get you out of my office as soon as I can. So the earlier you take care of that, the quicker everything will be better for you. The biggest issue is relocation, and it's called relocation stress syndrome. Sometimes it's good. People think we have this big house, we are going smaller, maybe we go warmer, or maybe we go colder, and that's a good thing. But later, we may need to do it again. We may not be able to take care of ourselves anymore. We may go to assisted living, and those are very big problems for our mental health. It's hard to give into that. It's hard to accept that. So that's another time where people like me or your support system, your family, your friends, really talk about these things. The biggest help for a community is when each person talks about their problems, because you're not alone, but it feels like you're alone. And just talking to your neighbor and say, yeah, I know, it's really good for all of us. I talked about resilience thinking. Yes,
Can we switch out to a handheld?
yeah.
You think that'll be better?
Yeah, something like that.
Thank you. Better?
Yes.
Okay. Another big thing that changes is your financial status and worrying about that. And people leaving, whether they are ill, whether they move on, whether they pass. That's another really high-risk situation for this population, the group, this age group. We think about grief as something that we need to just deal with and move on, but that's really not the case. Grief in itself, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, takes actually 5 to 6, 7 years. But the first year is the hardest, and if you are still really struggling, it becomes complicated grief, which looks like depression, and it's still grief. And you deal with these things differently, but most of it is self-care, taking care of yourself, however that works for you. Maybe you love to cook, make a nice meal, baking, bake, share it with people around you. Nature, here it's awesome. Be outside, even in this snow, even for 2 minutes. Be outside and take care of yourself. Any questions about the stages of, any worries about that? Loss of ability, maybe. No questions?
talking is memory. We tend to lose our memory, and one of the biggest things is dementia or Alzheimer's. What I would like you to know today is the first part of that is difficult for the person who has it. Once they're in the total stage of not remembering, they are actually happy, and we make it harder on ourselves. They don't remember anymore what they knew before. They live in their own memories of the past, and they are happy. So when you have a loved one and you feel like they're struggling, it's most likely with the environment, not with themselves. So think about how you can make the environment better for them. Meaning, did they have a favorite book? Bring the book and read it. Let them talk. Storytelling is really healing in all aspects of mental health. We also might lose our ability to talk, and this is especially for people like me, who English is not a second language. Is a second language. We go back to our old language. So if there was a way that people talked as they were young, they go back to that, just so you know. We do not really lose our attention span, but it's a little harder to do two things at a time. Multitasking is going to be harder for us. And our intelligence stays the same. Our memory might change, but our intelligence stays the same. Problem solving is also fine. You know how, that's resiliency, you know how to problem solve as you grow older. So that also means when you're dealing with mental health and you can't problem solve anymore, that means you need help. If you're just struggling with, I can't make a decision, and this is persistent, that means you need some help. Questions about that?
Question.
Can you define the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? I know they're different.
The difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. We don't really know enough about it yet. Yes, they are different, but mostly because the disease progression is different. And we can look at Alzheimer's on MRIs. So that makes it different. But neurologists really don't know quite yet. So I don't have a good answer for that.
So, so are the symptoms different? Are the behaviors in the older person different between the two diseases?
Not that we see yet. No.
So you, if somebody had dementia, you wouldn't know whether, or if they had the right you couldn't remember or didn't recognize you wouldn't know if that was dementia or Alzheimer's.
I wouldn't, but the doctor could by doing an MRI, and there's different assessments that they use for dementia over Alzheimer's. In Madison, there's a clinic for that, and they do one at the beginning, and then they just keep doing it every 5 years or so. We do know that Alzheimer's can have an earlier start. We also know that Alzheimer's, or the look of Alzheimer's, can happen with a significant deficiency in vitamin B. So, but we don't know a whole lot about it yet. Yeah, and in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was all the same. Yeah.
Question?
Yep.
Is there medicine that can help slow the progress of Alzheimer's or dementia? Is it important to get it diagnosed early or not?
There is medicine, and it can be slowed, but I'm not a doctor, so you would go to a specialist. Yeah, and what they do is they really do a whole day of assessments, and they look at an MRI and some other brain scans, and they look at the blood flow and when you respond, where you responding from in your brain. you have that problem, it needs to be an IV. So, just because it's about the vitamin B uptake. So you could take, a whole bottle of vitamin B and you still don't have enough in your body. Yeah, but that's what I know about it. I'm not a doctor. Any questions about this part? Otherwise I'll move to seasonal affective disorder. I should also change this, I guess. See, these were just for me. Maybe I should mention in terms of suicidality and suicide ideation, men are more at risk than women. In general, the population or the percentage is pretty low of suicide while you age, but they are almost all successful. So if a person of 60 or older talks to you about self-harm, it's important that you help them. Send them to me or one of the things to know, see now I'm going on tangents, but I want you to know, is that if someone talks about self-harm, it's really important to talk about it and say, I'm so sorry you feel suicidal. I am glad you're talking to me. And don't shy away from the word suicide, because when you say it, it releases them. They can say it. And just by saying it and acknowledging it, it reduces the need, the feeling of doing so. I think that was, it's important. We talked about all these. So, replacing a loved one, we talk about that more in grief. Seasonal affective disorder. Does anybody not know what that means? It happens more between fall and winter than it happens in spring and summer, but it does happen. It has to do with how your brain works. So if you happen to love winter, you can have seasonal affective disorder in the spring. You're at higher risk when you live higher or lower in the equator, and that has to do with the light, because there's a bigger change in light, and that's why we in the north we struggle with the darker days. But people can struggle with the lighter days too. So days are important. It feels like you have depression. That's what it feels like. You're just down, you're cold, you don't want to do anything. And so the cure of it is also like depression, self-care. You take good care of yourself, you eat healthy, you sleep well, you exercise, you talk with your friends, you reach out to family. That there isn't a cure for it. You can't take a pill for it. It's really this. So in terms of my job, it would be to help you with these things if you can't do it yourself, or if you're isolated and alone and you don't really know how to start. There are some things you can do. There is lights for it, that special light that goes, that mimics the sun. You also have glasses. If you don't want to sit in front of a light, you can have glasses that have the little lights in there. And it is always good to be outside. So if you see the sun, try to be outside, just for a little bit. Any questions about this?
What can we do about the people who live in the southern part of the United States right now who are complaining about having to change their clocks only an hour, and they're only seeing things in a vertical situation with our 4 time zones? They don't understand that there's as much of a difference in the time zones from south to north. And I keep reading these letters from people wanting standard time to be universal. understand, if we have standard times here on Washington Island, it's going to get light at 4 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the summer. So that's gonna be steep sleep deprivation for us here. While they're complaining because they have too much light at night, and they can't go to bed because it's still light at 9:30. So what can we do here in the north, where our days are very short, to try to convince people in other parts of the country that we have a much bigger problem than they have with the time change of just 1 hour on the clock?
What can you do?
Yeah, what can we do?
Yes, go in politics. Yeah, as a mental health therapist, I don't think I can do anything with it. But it's an issue, and it's getting attention, so speaking out would be good. And part of mental health is speaking out, taking care of what your issues are, what you're finding important is good. So it is good to speak out.
And I am quite affected by SAD at this time of year. It's very depressing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it's getting dark.
Yeah. Yeah. So I encourage you to make it cozy at home. Do the things you like, hot chocolate or a fire or anything that takes care of you being inside and being cozy, and use the light time to be outside with friends and be active in that way.
What?
You should try one of those lights.
They turn the lights on.
They're special
Yeah, I know.
lights. Go ahead.
So there are special lights and there are a plethora of manufacturers. How do you determine which of those manufacturers are reputable?
Well, I look at reviews, and I don't look at one site of reviews. I look at the good review and the bottom one, and just decide. I look at how long they are in business, and how have they developed and made it better. And some of it is luck too. Any other questions?
Sally, little white lights, little Christmas lights in your
Yeah.
house, they're very cheery.
I have them around my kitchen window.
Well, I put 'em
Some have
around-
red peppers on them.
I put them around more. I mean, I just think, I have Christmas lights, colored lights, white lights around my house all year round, and to me, it's just a really nice.
And that is something that I find, it affects me starting when the time change happens. And it goes away the minute people start putting all their Christmas lights up outside. And then that feeling goes away. So it lasts for me maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And then it goes away. Once
I have fairy lights at home
Christmas
too.
lights come on.
Yeah, so put more lights on. If that makes you cheer up, that's good.
It's just a whole.
Could I make some light too?
Yep.
One thing that happens to all of us is melatonin levels. And when the lights go up, your melatonin levels drop. When it gets dark, our melatonin levels go up and we get sleepier. And I think that's a part of it too. And she's right, the time change, it does the same thing to me. The other thing I use besides white lights, and I have some of the therapy lights, which I have found a great deal helpful, are green lights. I find, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I get really, really tired of white in the wintertime, and I have to have color. And I know when I even go south, if I can get into green, I'm good. So I started using green Christmas lights
That's a great idea.
in winter, so that I've got some green to look at.
Yep.
Because I get really tired of white.
And that reminds me, for your mental health in general, your senses are really what helps you with your mental health. So light, color,
yourself with that. Sleep and food are really important. You can only really have 3 days of bad sleep before your brain starts tricking you. You're not thinking straight anymore. It just is. It's for all of us. So get good sleep. If you are, not getting that, make sure that there is a night of good sleep. And I tell people, just knock yourself out, whatever. Not alcohol though, because alcohol helps you fall asleep, but then keeps waking you up. So no alcohol, but just anything that helps you fall asleep is good. For me, it's warm milk. I don't know why, it's probably because it was that was given to me when I was a baby or young. HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are 4 things you can look at if you're not feeling great. Am I hungry? Am I angry or anxious? Am I lonely? Am I tired? And try to fix those. So yeah, I'm hungry, I should eat something. I'm tired, maybe I'll take a nap. As you age, sleep is not necessarily 8 hours at night anymore. It becomes naps, and that's okay. We are conditioned to work, and we need to be up, and we need to sleep, but we don't have to do that anymore later. We can just take a nap, and that's totally fine. Any questions?
One thing you didn't mention much, which I think is vital, is exercise,
Yes.
period. And I think that can help depression
Mm-hmm.
and anyone
Yep.
at any level of
Yep.
depression. You need exercise.
And you're right, and it's preferably in nature, but if you can't do it, jumping jacks in your bedroom is fine. Or if you can't do jumping jacks, just, do like this, or something. It helps getting what I call your happy makers, endorphins, dopamine, and things like that, going, and that makes you feel better. Yeah, go ahead.
This is maybe a little bit silly, but in Scandinavia, our Norwegian relatives live very far north. And there is a very strong Norwegian, I can speak to Norwegian and Sweden, but I don't know so much about the others, of having a light in the window all the time. And originally it was to say, there's shelter here. But my mom talks about being there at this time of year, and the first time I was in Norway was in January. And you can see these tiny little glimpses of light, points of light, all over the mountainsides. And I think part of when I feel depressed, it's often there's an isolated feel to it. And so we've just retired and moved to the island finally, yay, full time. But my windows won't hold the candelabras I usually use. So in my head now, and on the internet, I'm looking for the kind of candles I can put in the windows. Not even for me, but so when people go by, they can see someone's there. It's not.
I'm not
so,
alone.
And I know my mom and my grandma, they loved, not saying they get teary, looking across the field and seeing my Uncle Connie's light up. They know they're there. Someone is there.
Yeah.
Our
And,
neighbor tells us that.
pardon?
Our neighbor tells us they love to look up the hill and see our light.
Yeah. So maybe that's just something as a community, maybe we can, source some battery operated lights we can put in the windows just to let people know we're there.
And community and fellowship is really important. Yeah, and especially on an island where you're pretty isolated, sometimes the boat doesn't go. And where do you go down? Well, that's scary for a lot of people. And so staying in touch with each other is really important, and that is more important than talking to me.
One other thing I want to mention is sleep apnea, because I was diagnosed with it years ago, and my husband was just diagnosed with it, and he resisted like crazy, but I think it can be a huge problem for people who don't even know that they're not sleeping well. And but I used to take my kids to Green Bay, and I thought he was having a heart attack. He felt weird all over, and we got there, his blood sugar was crazy, all of his numbers were nuts, and she said, Mike, have you been sleeping? And he said, no, I haven't slept good for 3 nights. So it isn't a joke. Go to the doctor, and she suggested some things, but she also gave him a prescription, and he said, you know, I wake up, say at midnight or 1 o'clock, and then I can't go back to sleep. She said, take half of a sleeping pill, and you'll sleep, and you'll wake up refreshed, and it's not gonna kill you or be too habit forming, but he actually gets sleep now, and he feels so much better. His numbers leveled out. But if you can't sleep, go get some medical help. And they'll give you lifestyle things to do, but they also can, there's mild sleeping pills you can take. It's not the end of the world. And you feel so much better.
Melatonin and over-the-counter sleeping aids are, you could consider.
Well, he
those
tried
too.
melatonin and it jazzed him up. So you gotta be careful with herbal things. They work different for everybody.
Yes, they work different for everybody, and I'm not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor either. Personal experience.
Yeah. And you're right, sleep is really important. A lot of people experience anxiety besides depression. And as people grow older, that increases, because what will I do if I can't get up those steps anymore? Or if I can't go to the grocery store anymore? Over the summer, I actually had 2 clients here with that, and they were just thinking like, you know, and me too, I'll retire here. And then it became really scary. So mental health just happens to us, and it's the same as a physical problem. You know, when you have diabetes, you go to a doctor. If you're not feeling right and you can't get up out of bed, or if your heart is racing and nothing is wrong with you, come see one of, you know, me.
Well, and there's still a stigma,
There is.
you know,
Mhm.
but we all have it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you say talk to anybody.
Including me. I need to take care of my mental health too, otherwise I can't help you. We need to do this for ourselves, for our kids, for our community. Yeah, it's an important part. And also, a lot of mental health issues and symptoms are related to pains in your body. They are both. So you can be depressed and you have pain everywhere. You can have pain anywhere and you can become depressed because you don't have a way of taking care of the pain. So they are related. And ideally, I would like it to be all together, physical and your mental health or your well-being. Any other questions? Now we're getting into grief. I can talk for hours about grief, so stop me and ask questions in between. We all know, I think, what grief is. It's a loss of something or someone. And for some people, that same thing that happened is not a big deal. For someone else, that same thing that happened is a big deal. So there is no recipe for grief or how to deal with grief. What we do know is that self-care is really important. 80% of what I do is help people figure out the way they can take care of themselves. In grief, if we talk about a lost one, a loved one, sorry, my kid said, if you make a mistake, just say, let me start over. If you experience losing a loved one, the first weeks are just crazy, and that's normal. You don't need to think. You can't think. You can cry now, you can cry in 5 minutes, and again in 10 minutes. Over the time, you will cry less. The waves will still come, and that's normal. It takes 5 to 7 years to have a truly feeling of a new normal. That person or that loved one, that is never going to go away. That loss, that sadness, that peace is never going to go away, but it gets easier.
things that is important to know that you can laugh even in your sadness, even in your pain. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to have a good time with people. People often feel guilty because of laughing, but it's healthy to do that. The first 6 months are tough, and there are different stages, and I think I have them somewhere. Let's see. The stages, though, are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can go 1, 5, 4, 2, 1 again, 3. That really doesn't matter. I can't find it right now, but they are.
You have it up on the.
Oh,
there-
oh, look
there.
at that. So they're bargaining. It's like, what could I have done different? What if this had happened? What if I had called earlier? And it kind of creates that feeling of guilt that you have. It's sadness of just crying. They call it depression, I call it sadness. There's denial. This can't be happening to me. Why? That's not right. And anger, you can be really, really angry at the person, at the event, what happened, at me, at anybody. And you go back and forth until you come to acceptance. Once you're in that stage, that's when you are starting to look for your new normal. What's really important in all of these stages is to try to create things that you can touch, your senses, things that you know this person would like or you would like about them. For example, Thanksgiving is coming up. Set a plate. It might hurt. The interesting thing about grief and your brain is that your brain halfway thinks that you can't forget this person, and if you feel good and feel okay and move on, that you're going to forget this person. And we know that that's not true. But your brain doesn't really give up on that. So setting a setting at the table is good. Finding an ornament. So you know next year when you open that box, there is this ornament. So you're teaching your brain that you are going to not forget this person ever, which allows you to grieve and let go of that pain. Storytelling is really good. Talk to each other about the good and the bad and the mischief and everything else that happened. This can be for a person, it can be for a pet, it can be for anybody and anything. After 6 to 12 months, if you're still in that stage of, I can't get rid of this, I'm sad, I'm just crying, then you get into complicated grief. That is harder to work through and move on from. The difference between complicated grief and depression is complicated grief is about this person, about this loss. Depression is, what do I do now? I don't know. I have not, my whole life was around this and now I don't know. And that's more depression. That's not grief. And you do kind of different things with it. Depression, you walk and you eat healthy. You don't do those things. Sadness is you write letters or you look at the picture every day, or it's more of a doing thing that includes that person or that being instead of taking care of yourself in that way. You always take care of yourself though. Even if you feel good, it's good to take that walk because you feel better. It's good to make a meal, even if it's just for yourself. That's, I think, why we do these luncheons. Food is really healing. It shows your love for people. And sharing food is really healing. Any questions? How are we doing on time? 1:30, right? I can talk for hours if you're interested. I just want to be mindful of everybody's time, including mine, actually. Any questions? Go ahead.
Not so much a question, it's a comment, which is that in a lot of ways, grief is such a lonely thing. In the sense that you're feeling the grief, that everyone around you is all going on with their normal life and having fun and doing this and that, going out to eat, and you're sitting there saying, I'm feeling miserable. So it's very lonely. And it's lonely also because triggers for grief are very individual.
Right.
Example, my sister, for instance, has learned to let people know around her that on a given anniversary, say, of her husband's birthday, she just has a bad day. I mean, she just feels down that day because but it's very personal for her.
Yep.
No one else understands that unless she clues them in. And that's part of it, is communicating and say, here's why I'm having a hard time.
Yep. Or I'm having a hard time. You know, sometimes we can't explain. We don't have the words why we are having a hard time. So just saying I'm having a hard time. Personally, I have I call it, I'm activating my support network. And there's about 6 people in there, and I say, I'm activating my support network, and each one knows exactly what they should be doing, and then they all do it for me. Yeah.
I think the other hard part about losing a spouse or companion is the extra responsibility and workload that's put on a remaining person. It's on top of the loss and the sadness and everything, you've got all this that you've probably never had, some of it you've never had to do before, and it's you. I mean, that's only you. And sometimes that takes away from the time you enjoy spending on other things. You have to let those things go. And it's
Right.
hard, it makes it very
Right.
difficult.
If you are in the sad position of being a caregiver and someone you know is going to pass, there is a lot of things that happen inside you and on your brain that you can't really comprehend. And I encourage you to talk with me or anybody who does grief work to start that process. It really starts before the person passes. We all know that caregivers have a really difficult job, and part of that is seeing that person become more and more sick or incapable of doing things.
Could I ask, I was just gonna ask what are your hours up here? I know you kind of come and go and you didn't, so when are you available up here?
You can call me anytime. Right now, I'm figuring it out because the ferry and the time and all this, so I am trying to be as available as possible. You can always call me. The nice thing too is that Zoom is available for people who can't. Your insurance will pay for that. I am at least twice a month on the island. And what I've done so far is I've let people know, my clients, when I'm here, and then almost always they fit themselves in, but nobody knows about each other, but it always works out. And then if someone, hold on Keith, if someone needs it, we can do a Zoom, or we can do a phone call. The good thing about COVID is that all of that is covered. Yeah, and I'm a provider for Medicaid and Medicare, and also for a bunch of insurances here, and each time that a new insurance comes by, I apply for it and I become a provider because I'm the only one here. So it might take a few weeks, but almost all of you would be able to get a paid through from your insurance. Also, I kind of have the policy. It's an unwritten policy, but if you need help and you can't afford it, that should not be a reason for you to reach out. So I will waive your copay, I will work with you, do whatever you need, so you could get the help, because to me, that is important.
Keith?
Yeah, I've been in group therapy, I do 9 hours a week, in Senior Life Solutions, and we all have to be over 65 to be in it, and what I would like to say is the age. One of the people in our group is 96 years old, so you can assume that you could go to therapy at whatever age possible, and there's people that are in their 80s, there's women, there's men, so don't ever think that therapy can't do you good.
And therapy is really about you, what you need to feel better about. And you know, I don't really set the agenda. The first session is setting the agenda because I need your insurance to pay for our sessions, but that's it, then it's your time. And whatever you need is what we will do. Also on the island, just for information, if you can't come to me, I will come to you. And
I just, speaking of grief, the last 2 years, I'm 63, the last 2 years, I have lost 9 classmates. And I'm stunned. My stomach just fills up with this heat and, this pain in my chest. And one of my friends from high school, I noticed she was not on Facebook the last 6 months, and I started to look into it. I haven't been well the last 2 months, and I started to look, and I saw somebody made a comment, oh, fly high and that, and I was just like, are you kidding? And I still can't find out what happened. And I mean, that's just an inordinate amount of people at my age, you know, and I feel so scared and sad, you know, it's just unbelievable to me.
you're right, and as you age, that happens more and more.
Yeah.
And fear of dying is also quite prevalent around, 70, 80, 90 years old. Which is also, people come to me for that. For, I can't live with this, I'm afraid to die. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Just a really quick note, we do have a caregiver support group up here that I facilitate from the county. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We meet once a month, usually the first Friday from 10 to 11:30 in the White Ship office. Everything's completely confidential. And on that note, if you wouldn't mind doing your surveys, and then we're gonna do the drawing for the card, and please remember there's soup to take on the way home. And stuff over here if you're interested, COVID test and handouts. Thank you for coming. See you in December.
Thank you.